What's happening, everybody? Thank you for being here at All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. Today's going to be a super cool show. I'm excited about my guest. He's been a friend of mine forever. But before we even get started, I want you to do me a favor. If you're coming here from Facebook or your Instagram or Twitch or any of the other channels, please do me a favor. Go to this link below. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. From there, you want to subscribe to this channel, of course. You can like this video. Make sure you share it. Throw me some comments. Let me know what kind of feedback you might have on the episode. But something special about the channel is that you can also become a member, and members get exclusive access to certain episodes. I had a great interview with mutual friend of ours, Cy Kernan from The Fix, that's available only to members mid-year from Ultravox. Great interview with Kelly Kigi back in his home in Phoenix, where we hung out and talked about great things, Night Ranger. Upcoming events for members only. I'll be on tour next month, the entire month of November, with A Flock of Seagulls, of course, Honeymoon Suite, Men Without Hats, and the Spoons. So for members only, I'm going to be offering a bunch of behind the scenes live camera action, both green room stuff and backstage and on stage live concert footage for members only. So become a member. If nothing else, please do subscribe to the channel and let me know that you're a supporter of All Access Live. Now, I would not have this channel if it wasn't for 5-Star Guitars. 5-Star's based in Beaverton, Oregon. If you're a guitarist or interested in getting repairs done or getting lessons, go to 5starguitars.com and let them know that All Access Live sent you. If you order online at 5starguitars.com, you get everything there without sales tax. There's no sales tax in Oregon. So you're going to save a bunch of money and you'll be supporting the channel. And 5-Star is going to be sponsoring tomorrow's show, 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. An incredible guitarist you probably know if you're a guitarist. I have Mike Stern on the show. Amazing Mike Stern, guitarist from Miles Davis and Yellow Jackets. Plays with Dennis Chambers. He's on tour right now with Dennis Chambers. We're going to talk about all that tomorrow at 2 p.m. So you don't have to become a member. If you subscribe, you can just come back and check out the channel then. So Mike Stern, 2 p.m., October 8th, 2 p.m. Pacific. Please come back. Check it out. Now, I mentioned that my next guest and I have been friends. We've been friends for 30 years now. It's amazing. He's not only a drummer, he's a phenomenal songwriter. He's a great musician all the way around and a killer human being. I've got him all the way from, I think, his bunker in Southeast Portland. Is that right? Or Southwest Portland? I've got Mike Collins.
Southwest Portland, yeah.
Southwest Portland. There you go.
Yeah.
This it looks like a bunker. You got your Zeppelin drum up, the frame drum up on the wall, which is
killer,
representing.
Bonzo.
I love the backdrop. So we've got Beatles represented. We've got UFO drum head. We've got, of course, we got the Prince guitar right down there. That's good. We got some Dio, and I see Elvis Costello up in the corner.
You do,
and the more Beatles stuff up on that top shelf. And then we're going to talk a lot about the video that you've got coming up, which features this beautiful painting that you have up to your right.
Yes, sir.
That painting was one that you said you want to tell a little bit about that painting.
Yeah, that's a painting that my grandma Penny did. Oh gosh, like 1974 or something like that. And I always would marvel at it when I would go visit her in Sacramento. And so when she passed away last year, my aunt said, "It's yours," because she knew how much I loved it. And so it now resides in my bunker.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah. I love it. The bunker that you speak of. You've done a lot of songwriting. I love that on social media you share a lot of your practice sessions where you've got your drum kit there and you work on all sorts of stuff. The bands, because you play in a ton of bands. They're all friends of ours. I know Beat Division is a favorite of many. Great hits of the sort of 80s new wave era. And then you got Metz Ryan Collins, your original project, which is dear friend. And then Ants in the Kitchen, of course, which is really cool, sort of horns, R&B sort of vibey band. And then you've got Rooftop Screamers. Yeah. So for people that don't know, tell me a little bit about where the origin of Rooftop came from.
Well, I guess it kind of started as my old band Throwback Suburbia was splintering and we split up. And I had a bunch of songs kind of in the queue. And since the band was no longer, I'm like, I got to find a home for these songs. And I had the idea of, why don't I just bring in special guests instead of trying to have a core group of people, which is hard to maintain these days, as you know.
Yeah.
I wanted a different voice for different genres and different types of, moods and that kind of a thing. So I decided I would just go in and record the basic tracks and then reach out to people that I know and some people that I don't know, some heroes of mine, and gosh, I've been doing it since 2018.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah,
Like 6 years.
It's a vehicle for my songwriting, basically.
And so as you've talked about in the bunker here, you've been writing these songs across the board. I mean, I know a lot of your influences, and you've been on the show before. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
I know Beatles are a massive influence for you. As later years went on, bands like Cheap Trick, Jellyfish, those kind of bands that were a big influence. And I hear some of that stuff in the songwriting, but then there's such a variation of those tunes that it's awesome. It's not like it's completely thematic, I wonder, when you write these tunes, do you have those vocalists in mind? Do you think, because they're all different, you've had all these different singers for all these tunes?
Yeah. Usually that kind of germinates once a song is done. I'm like whose voice would be appropriate for this, whether it's a male or a female. Yeah. And then I just kind of decide, okay, I maybe Cy Curnin from the Fix would be great for this song, which that happened a few years back. And so as an example, this song was a little more 80s new wave-ish, and I'm like, I think Cy Curnin from the Fix, and they're one of my favorite bands from back when I was in high school. And luckily he liked the song and agreed to sing on it. So there's one example of a voice. I'm like, I could hear his voice on this song, and got her done.
It totally fit. And that song is phenomenal. And I used it a little bit, right, when I was promoting the Instagram.
I saw that, man. Thanks.
Oh, I love it. I mean, the tunes are great. And I'm not, we've been friends for a long time. And you and I both know that when people come to you and they say, hey, man, I want you to check out this song of mine. And a lot of times you're like, okay, maybe the hook's not there, the song isn't there. And you find creative ways to tell somebody, well, I love the packaging. Right. But these tunes are phenomenal. And if you and I didn't know each other, I would be buying these tunes and loving the songs. I just, I wondered about that a lot. I mean, the Cy is one example. You had Andrew Paul Woodworth, of course. You had a phenomenal singer, and Steve McSwain, another one, right? Like local, those guys are local guys, but they're world-class singers. And
absolutely.
The fact that you've got connections with all these guys means that the personality fit is there too, right? So
I mean, I have my little spiel when I reach out to them, and I try to make it personal. And I mean, they're not just people I'm just grabbing out of the ether. They're people that I legitimately, am a fan of. So and I've really, it's not like I'm throwing wads of cash at these people like, hey, I'll give you all this money. I mean, I have to say that a lot of it's the strength of the music, and that's been the feedback, at least. It's that's not me. So that's them saying, hey, I wouldn't normally do this, but I really like this song. So, hey, let's do it. That kind of thing.
That's a gift. Yeah. Two more. I was just thinking Rob Daker, Kevin Hahn, and, more singers that you've worked with that I think they've got, their talents in their own space. I mean, Rob is a great producer and, and engineer. And yet like people don't even realize what a phenomenal guitarist he is, but he's a great singer. And songwriter too, and Kevin Hahn, the same thing.
They're both a package for sure. Kevin hasn't actually sang on one of my songs yet, but I have one in mind. And we talked about this a few nights ago of having him actually finally sing lead vocals on one of my songs, because he's produced and played, instrumentation on several songs. But this time around, it's time for him to put that amazing voice on one of my tunes. So
you've got it seems like every time I turn around, you've got a new sort of package of these tunes together. And the one that we're talking about today, the last few months, like the song's been done for a bit. You had it ready and mastered, and you were working on the video. And the video was special to you, and the gal that was working on it did incredible job. We'll take a look at it in a minute. But how did you picture, first of all, writing the song? You wrote the song about Penny, right? So you want to talk a little bit about
grandma? Yeah, passed away last year. Yeah.
And you said she was there in Sacramento?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yep.
family, you got Jampro Sound from Boise, Idaho. Good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. And Caleb, all the way from Thailand. Thanks for being here,
Hey,
Caleb.
hey, Caleb.
Appreciate that. Um, when Souvenirs was written, tell me a little bit about the connection with Penny. Like what was the background behind it?
Well, I would say like the nucleus of the song was literally in this room. I was just started strumming this little descending guitar pattern, and as usual, when I'm writing a song and the melody started to come out, and it just had a mood to it. It felt melancholy, and I was dealing, with the grieving process of her passing away. I'd literally just gotten back from doing her eulogy at her memorial, and the word souvenirs came to mind, and I'm like, what does that mean? I landed on the fact that I'm getting a little choked up, but anyways, it just something about it, just the spirit of the feel of the song reminded me of my grandma, and the words just started to pour out, and the melodies and everything just kind of came. I feel like the best songs are usually written within like a half hour. You don't have to struggle, and they're not laborious. It's like they're just gifted to you, and you got to arrange it and tighten things up. But that was one of those songs where it was in a night pretty much written,
Wow.
So that told me this is going to be a special song, and it's about her.
Tell me some memories. I mean, give me some of the earliest memories you have with Penny.
Man. Well, she was like a second mother to me. When my dad passed away and he was killed in Vietnam, my mom and I moved to Altadena, a neighborhood of Pasadena down in California. And we stayed with my grandma and grandpa and my uncles and aunt in their home until I was around 2 years old. And because everybody needed to be with everybody to kind of get through this process of grieving. And I don't have memories of that home, but I'd say my earliest memories are around 3 or 4 when I would go down to Sacramento with my mom and spend time in my grandparents' house. And her art was everywhere. So that was always in the picture, no pun intended. And man, I just remember some of my earliest memories are going down there during summer breaks. And we would go camping, and we would go to antique shows. My grandma and grandpa were both antique dealers. So we would go to these antique shows and just road trips, and the local fair and things like that. I mean, she always had some sort of entertainment package ready for me whenever I would come visit them in the summertime,
Yeah.
And I always looked forward to it. Literally, I think up until middle school, I was down there every summer for at least a couple weeks to be with my dad's side of the family. And we never lost that connection. My mother and I, a lot of family, and you've got, in-laws, and they kind of drift apart, and we've been solid ever since, In fact, I'm sure some of them are watching right now, like my aunt and uncle.
You froze
there,
for just a second. Yeah. Sorry. My internet dropped for just a second there, but these, yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Those, the family things, I mean, I dealt with grief a lot this last year, and I think
Yes, you did.
this, I mean, you and I both, we are so focused on our passions. I mean, you're a fantastic massage therapist, but music is certainly the place that you find your expression, right? And the pandemic, this is the show was it was birthed from being stuck at home, where our identities were sort of compromised. There was an identity crisis, that the things that we do to fulfill our passions was put on hold. And I know, like, some people were able to really focus on family or perfect their crafts or whatever. For you, were you able to sort of like bring family in at that point to sort of hold each other close while you weren't out traveling? Hey, Mikey, you disappeared for a second there. Apologize about that.
Yeah, you froze up on my end. I could see my screen okay. So
Okay, good. Yeah.
Gremlins.
Yeah, well, you know what, we're gonna like hammer on T-Mobile for this, but I was asking about holding family close, like during the pandemic. Were you able to like get to see Penny and some other family during that time?
Um, yeah, well, gosh, was it? I think it might have just been as the pandemic was ending. We went down for her 100th birthday party,
Wow.
which was just, I mean, she was a very well loved and popular person in her community. She was the honorary mayor of her little town of Fair Oaks, which is a suburb of Sacramento.
Okay.
So they rented this humongous hall for, you know, her hundreds of friends and family to come out. So that was one of the last times I saw her, actually, was her 100th birthday. She
Okay.
passed away she just shy of her 100th birthday when she finally passed away last year.
Incredible, man. That's a pretty
Yeah.
pretty impressive life, though, and it sounds like
Yeah.
her community was important too.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with those things in mind, I mean, I think I'd love to know what souvenirs you assembled, you know, from Penny's life. We've been talking about it a bit. This single that you mentioned, today's the launch of the video. So we've got the video,
Yeah.
the singles available on all streaming platforms. Is that right?
It will be any day now. I loaded
Okay.
it up a couple days ago. It might already be up on a few. Spotify usually takes about a week, but
Okay.
it'll be available in the next couple of days.
And
Yeah.
as of this episode, you'll be able to get access to the souvenirs video right here. The link below. If you go to youtube.com/@rooftopmic, you'll be able to see the souvenirs video. I'm going to go ahead and just play it. That way, if the
Cool.
gremlins happen, they won't get lost. Let's take a look at Rooftop Screamers souvenirs.
Thanks.
Just bump it back.
Hope you're happy wherever you are, out there among the prettiest stars. As I saw
So beautiful. Look at that, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah, in the chat, I see Lori Morissette says, "I'm not crying." Yes, buddy. Knock, oh, knocked it out of the park there, bud. The tell me about the designer behind that video production.
It's a gal I've worked with. This is the third video she's done for me, Daphne Ang, from T Comas Studio. She's in the UK. She's
Okay.
an artist she's an artist. She does, she paints, she does music, she does incredible videos. She did the last one I did with Rob Dacre called Dead in the Water. And
Great
then the one
song.
before that was called Another Life that I did with Tim Smith from Sheryl Crow's band and Jellyfish. And each one has just gotten better and better, in my opinion. And she knocked it out of the park. I sent her all the pictures of the paintings, some home movie stuff, photos of her as a young girl. And she used her artistry to assemble this video and use some brief moments of AI where she literally brought the photos and the paintings to life, which just, first time I saw it, I was just like, it took my breath away. It was so cool.
That is such a great use of technology, man. The AI, like bringing that painting that's there in your room to life, right? Where the musicians are playing, and some of the photos where the still photos where you can see that Penny's actually come to life.
AI to me is a double-edged sword. It can be used for good or bad, like anything, any kind of technology. And in this case, I think she definitely used it for good.
Yeah. Well, when we wrap the podcast up, I'll make sure that I get links to that artist in your show notes, because I think, if she's a musician and a graphic artist herself, you could tell that really she was able to put that dedication into the production.
Well, she even sent me an email during the process, and she said, "I really feel like I've gotten to know your grandmother as I've been putting the video together." And she was reading articles. My grandma was a great writer. She had stories in different publications and local newspaper. And she read a bunch of her articles unbeknownst to me. I didn't even send them to her. She just looked them up, and she's like, "Wow, your grandma was just some amazing human being. I feel like I've gotten to know her." And she really put a lot of TLC into the videos, you can tell. And there's, I should mention, like some of the imagery of the video, like the Golden Gate Bridge. My grandma was one of the first people to cross the Golden Gate Bridge after it was open.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why there's a little tribute to that. There's a painting of the Golden Gate Bridge that she did. And she was an usherette at I believe it was the Palladium down in LA.
Okay.
The cigars, cigarettes, and ladies that would walk around. And I guess like Frank Sinatra flirted with her one night when he was there. And she had quite the life.
That's killer. Guys in the chat, I see you there. Cheryl Massaro says, "I'm definitely crying."
Oh, cool.
And Bill Muir, he says, "Hello, Mike." So you've got your fan club is here. As far as family goes, were you able to show this to your family before we actually debuted it?
I sent while the video link was unlisted, I sent it to a couple family members.
Okay. Yeah. That's got to be something really special. It's one thing to get a photo album with these pictures or maybe assembled, DVDs of home videos, but this bringing it to life.
Yeah.
And the song. So when you and I first talked about this a few weeks ago, I was listening to the song itself. I hadn't seen the video, but my mom heard it in the background. I was together with my mom, and we're still going through that process, of the loss of my dad. And I'm grateful.
Your dad was an artist.
He was a graphic artist. Yeah. Painter, printer, printmaker, sculptor. And, but the song was playing in the background as I was talking to my mom, and I was putting together the marketing for the show. And she said, "Oh, that song is lovely." And, it's great that, she's around music all the time, and was there to see a show that I was doing, but to hear her regard your music as lovely outside of, she was a big Elvis fan, that was like, Elvis and Beatles were her thing. And,
oh, wow. Well, I'm
so,
honored that she liked it. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely. She wouldn't have said that about most of the bands I play with, right? So that's good. Wow. At least, you've extended into my family in other ways too.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow.
Dane Ryan's here too. He said, "Yo, Mike."
Hey, Dane, I haven't seen you for a while, buddy.
Yeah, well, you guys, this is the end of busy season for you guys. I mean, you guys.
It is.
Pretty, but you and you're in a band with an amazing dude named Joff as well. So the three of you guys are sort of the core, the nucleus for those projects between
Brothers.
Ants in the Kitchen and MRC.
Yeah.
Tell me what's happening. What's going on with MRC?
We just finished 2 songs with Kevin Hahn.
Okay.
And they turned out amazing. I just heard the masters of both of them last week. The plan is to go back in the studio and record 2 more songs and put out an EP, realistically, like beginning of next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the artwork. I mean, we talked about other art. The early artwork for your albums. Our dear friend Meryl Hale was
Yes.
your sort of ambassador of art for those things too. So
Yeah.
maybe when we put together show notes, maybe we can showcase some of these other bands. It's amazing to me that you somehow find a way to wear all these hats. What about opportunities for like rooftop screamers? I mean, would you ever like find time to maybe put together a show where you could assemble all of those singers, kind of a Monsters of Rock for a live show?
I've thought about it. I don't think I could afford to fly everybody in from all over the world to do that, but I could definitely find some core singers here in town. And yeah, I've been kicking that idea around. We're just getting a group of guys, spending a few days rehearsing 9 or 10 songs, and just bring all my best musician buds on stage to play the material. That'd be awesome.
How could I have forgotten about Delana? That was another amazing singer that you've like had.
Oh yeah,
rooftop. Yep. So
yeah,
so yes, folks, if you heard me talking about Rooftop Screamers, it's not all male centric. He's had phenomenal.
Oh, Stephanie Schneiderman.
Oh yes, I didn't even know.
New York session singer who unfortunately passed away not too long ago, named Kim Wayman.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Stephanie Schneiderman's another one. She like you somehow finds time, a lot of extra hours in the day to pack a lot in. But
well, speaking of singers, I should definitely mention the one on Souvenirs is Randy McStein, who is the guitar player for Porcupine Tree, which is one of my favorite bands.
Amazing.
He got on my radar. Well, when I flew down to see Porcupine Tree in 2022, and he was the new addition to the band.
Okay.
And I was just watching him going, wow, who is this guy? Like, and when he started singing background vocals, I could tell he had a phenomenal voice. He nailed all the guitar stuff, even Alex Lifeson's solo on some of the songs that he played.
Really?
And so I kind of did a deep dive when I got back home and went on Spotify and listened to all his solo work. And he's got a project with Marco Miniman, the phenomenal drummer.
Oh yeah.
It's like prog fusion. It's incredible. So, as I was listening to Randy's voice, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to ask this guy to sing on a song. And so when in the process of putting Souvenirs together and I sang, the demo, I'm like, I got to ask Randy McStein. Like, he's got this beautiful, pure, clean, yet gritty when he wants it to be kind of voice. And he liked the song and said, yeah. And he threw some guitar stuff on it too. And we are currently working on another song together. He starts singing his vocals like in the next day or two.
No kidding.
And then the producer, and who also played a ton of instruments on a lot of my Rooftop stuff, is Mark Plotty, who I've been working with since 2006 when he flew out to produce Throwback Suburbia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that you've got the biggest fan in the chat here. Mira is here saying, hi, Dad. Virtual hug. Congrats on the new song. Yes. Your daughter, who's a phenomenal singer as well, right?
She's a really good singer. Yeah.
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 Have you I know that there was the event that Andrew Paul Woodworth does in
Rising Artist Workshop, Raw.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Mira's been a part of that
she was. Yep. A few years back. Quite a few years.
You do any other work together, you and your daughter?
No, she's kind of gone down a separate path. She's not, she does music for fun.
Yeah. So she's happy.
She's got a ukulele and a guitar, and I think
that'll make for a happy daughter, right? Where she's not completely dependent on it. Oh, she's great with the emojis here too. She's all like, Um, and Mary clarified. So so Penny
Yep.
went across the Golden Gate Bridge the day that it opened, May 1937.
The day it
Incredible.
opened. Wow.
Wow, unbelievable. Yeah, that.
Yeah, she's my fact checker here because I'm sure I probably said some made some mistakes on some of the history, but you know.
Yeah, well, like about that. Here's another thing that I've noticed as I go through the archives with my dad. I've been finding photos and I look at archives. My grandmother, it was amazing. So my grandpa was in World War II, and she used to write a newsletter, and it was for the wives of the infantrymen and the um, soldiers, like off in the army, and she would sort of report back about what was going on in the Pacific Islands, and I kept finding all this stuff about my grandpa and my dad that I didn't know. So as you started to, open up the archives to sort of commemorate things for Penny, do you find out more things about family that were new discoveries?
Yeah, and speaking of World War II and the Pacific Islands, my grandpa, who I never met, my dad's father, was shot down over the Pacific Islands after the attack on Pearl Harbor around that same time frame, and he was never recovered.
Really?
So my dad grew up without a father who was killed in the war, and same with me. So very similar lineage.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Your other biggest fan here in the chat. Hi, Ashley. Good to see you.
Yeah.
As time went on, I mean, you knew this, of course, about your grandfather in time, but how do you feel like your relationship with your mom changed? I mean, did you have a stepdad growing up?
Yeah,
Okay.
John, and he filled the role to the best of his ability. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we, over the years, have seen more eye to eye than we did growing up. As a rebellious teenager, there was a little bit of this going on.
Can't relate to that at all. What are you talking about? I'm still
back to your question about learning more about her. When I was down for her memorial last December, I went through a stack of photos of her, and many of which I'd never seen. And my aunt was with me when I was looking through it, and Mira, my daughter, was as well. And I was finding things out about her. I'm like, where was this taken, and what was going on here, and that kind of thing. So yeah, there was definitely some history that I wasn't privy to until I started diving into those photos and stuff.
You've sort of added to the history, as you brought this stuff together, and it's really cool that this artist was able to bring some of those photos and animate those. But
yeah,
I would imagine, as Mira gets older and she's passing on, stories of her family and generations, things like this very video, are sort of a real great snapshot into family history.
Yeah.
I think you've got to be proud, man. And
well, absolutely. And that's one thing that Daphne, who did the video, she mentioned. She said, I want this video to be a souvenir in its own right, something that'll be around forever, that is a tribute to Penny. And it sure is,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Randy's on another upcoming single. So you've got another song that you're working on with him?
Yeah, I got a new song called My Sanity. And Mark has already played a bunch of guitar and synth and bass parts, and the stems are on their way to Randy as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Randy's heard the demo and he dug it. And he's down in LA, or was this past weekend, at the Baked Potato with Stu Ham and Chad Wackerman.
Right.
Yeah.
He actually, I talked to him about jumping in on this episode because I thought it'd be really fun.
Yeah.
But he had a sound check happening at this very time. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, not a bad gig, that trio. For sure.
Well, and he's playing with Steven Wilson next year too. Steven Wilson's doing a European tour, and Randy's the guitar player on that, along with Nick Beggs on bass. So
that I think we were both at the Porcupine Tree at the Crystal a few years ago too, with our
no, the only time I've ever seen them was 2 years ago down in San Francisco. I was kind of late to the party. I had heard the name Porcupine Tree, and at the time, a friend of mine kind of turned me on to them, and I was in my Beatles power pop world, and I think what he played for me was like the super like metal side of Porcupine Tree, and it just at the time it just didn't resonate with me. And then I heard the song Blackest Eyes.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that got me too.
10, 12 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, what, you know,
Yeah.
and then I just went out and got everything they had, and I'm a super fan now. So having Randy on this stuff is quite an honor.
Yeah, as it should be. I can
Yeah.
see my camera glitching out. I apologize about that, guys. Hopefully it's not a distraction. Linda Collins, mommy's very proud of you. So
Hey,
yes, man, you've got the family together.
I do. Right
Where
on.
where's mom?
Where's mom?
Yeah.
She's
Is
in
she in
Beaverton.
Oh, she is here in
Yeah.
in the Portland
Yeah.
area. Okay.
Same
All right.
house for like about 30 years now.
Okay. Right
Yeah.
on. Was family musical? Was
No, but my great grandfather, my grandmother's father, had a band and played banjo.
Oh, okay.
And this is a cool story. In my 20s, my grandma gave me his banjo, and the banjo's, I think it was from 1922 or something like that.
Okay.
And it was pretty disheveled, and it was just sitting in the corner of my garage gathering cobwebs for the last couple of decades until Joff Metz came over one night. He's like, "What's with the banjo?" And I told him, he's like, "Oh, that's not good. We got to fix." So he took it to 5-Star, and him and his luthier guy fixed it up for me, and it's in great condition. And he wrote a song. I want to say it's called "This Old Town" or "My Old Town." And I have the sheet music, and I'm going to go in the studio and do a recording of it with probably Joff and Dane and those guys, and have that banjo on the track.
Right on.
Yeah. And I have a photo of him on stage with this band from 1924, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
No
incredible.
kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the subject matter in the painting that Penny did there too. It looks like New Orleans jazz. Like you've got some. Yeah, look at that. That is so cool. It looks like a Dixieland.
Yeah, it was in New Orleans.
Yeah, yeah. So that my pop was a Dixieland band. Like he played clarinet and sax as well. And so I grew up in that. You know, that was the music that I was introduced to, and I think you and I have talked about like the overlaps a little bit. You know, for me, rock was everything, even though Dad introduced me to Dixieland, and then you'd see phenomenal players in other genres, right? So my dad took me to see Chick Corea acoustic band with Weckl.
I was just going to say that. Like I was a metal, hard rock metal guy, but in my late teens, I got turned on to Chick Corea electric band, and I went out and bought the cassettes, and I saw them live a couple of times. And when I went to PIT, that's all I wanted to do was be Dave Weckl,
Right. Yeah. No. Well, as you know, I have Mike Stern on the show tomorrow.
I know.
And we chatted just before the episode here, and he is in the middle of his tour, and I asked if he had the same touring band from Asia that he's taken out to Europe next week. He said, no, Dennis is coming back on drums. So he's got Dennis Chambers as his drummer, has for years and years. And I remember just like hearing him for the first time, and different avenues opened up, listening to what he could do. And but what you mentioned PIT, so that experience, and you mentioned wanting to be Weckl. Tell me about some of the experiences you had there that kind of paved your way to your songwriting that you're doing now.
I was in a band prior to moving to PIT, and I literally would just hum my melodies to my guitar players, and they would find all the chords and stuff. So I was not much of a songwriter at the time. I mean, I had, melodies would come into my head, but I knew maybe a couple of bar chords, but not enough to where I could really assemble a song. Yeah. And it wasn't until a few years later that I bought a couple of guitars and started to teach myself, to be a little bit better player. And, when I really started to flex my songwriting muscle was really Throwback Suburbia. I had songs, and me and Jimmy got together, and Jimmy was very instrumental in helping me become a better songwriter, as was Kevin Hahn and a lot of people back, a few 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Eric French was in the project too, right?
Yep,
that's right.
Paul Vaughn and Mark Ricker,
That's right. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you and I, like we first met, right, when I first moved to town. You were playing with Silicone Jones, I think, at that point. But just prior, you mentioned the stuff before you went on down to LA. Was it Harder Faster? Was that the band that you were playing in before?
No, we were called Grand Vision, and we were
Okay.
kind of a cross between Styx and the Scorpions.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It was
Well,
very melodic, very syrupy ballads at times. Our singer, Jeff Bond, who went on to be the singer for Dirty Rhythm, the band that Brian Harrison was in. He was our singer, but he had a very Dennis DeYoung-esque voice.
okay.
But the music was, was a little more bar chord, anthemic like the Scorpions with a lot of harmony. So that's why I kind of use those two bands as an example. That band folded and then, or I think I just quit and I moved to LA and went to PIT. And then when I got back, within a few months, I started the band with Ron and Michael and Lee Schneiderman, Harder Faster.
Okay, that was after PIT. All right.
Yeah, that was around like the time I was 23. Yeah.
Okay. But still the yellow Yamaha kit.
Yep.
Right?
It's still around. In fact, Eric French plays it in their rehearsal space for Exquisite Taste of Plain Water, which is the band those guys have. I basically donated it to Jimmy, and that's the house kit in their basement.
Amazing. I actually need to track those guys down because I heard one song and I really like that band a lot too.
They're great.
So,
yeah, phenomenal. Yeah. Great songwriting.
Who else is big right now in your world that you're inspired by?
Man, I mean, there's always the staples for me. There's always ELO and Costello, Crowded House, Neil Finn, Butch Walker.
Oh yeah.
But also,
anything new?
What's that?
Anything new? Are you
I was trying to. Well, Randy McStein's music. I play him quite a bit recently, as well as the latest Porcupine Tree. Steven Wilson's new album. I kind of vacillate between prog and pop. That's kind of my thing. Man, anything. Well, it's not new, but we both love Big Wreck. God. And any chance I get, I turn people on. I saw that Dirk mentioned, or you mentioned Big Wreck in your interview with Andrew, and
yeah,
Dirk chimed in that he had heard them through me, and
yeah. So because we were talking about bridges, and I said to me, like a bridge absolutely makes or breaks a song.
Yeah.
Souvenirs has a gorgeous bridge. I love the way you go
I love
down
to write bridges. I love to write bridges.
You're playing, like the floor tom, like quarters on that bridge, building up and go somewhere, right? It brings us on. I mentioned Big Wreck. Like to me, they have got these crazy iconic bridges, but as far as like Big Wreck goes, I know my surrounding people are so sick of me talking about it. But bridges and choruses, the hooks are there, the emotions all there,
Well, and it's just so versatile. I mean, they can get down and dirty and swampy and metal, and then just beautiful. Like the latest that new EP has got a lot of like Abacab era Genesis vibes going on.
Definitely. Yeah.
The gated drums and the synthesizers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, the song I'm working on, this latest song that Mark and Randy and I are working on together, was very much inspired by some of that Big Wreck stuff and Genesis. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. You're not going to get any complaints from me, man. Bill Muir says it's always a blast performing a couple songs with you at Andrew's summer shows at the pub.
Oh, we love having Bill get up and play with us. Yeah.
So, I mean, I mentioned these other projects, but I didn't even mention Andrew Paul Woodworth. You've got the Bandemic stuff and you've got his solo thing. So, and we did have a chat the other day with Dirk and Andrew. We talked about how important the hang is, right? I mean, just being able to have the personal connection, and you could assemble, 5 all-stars from different avenues, but if the hang wasn't there,
right,
then, what's the point? Right?
Yeah, it doesn't mean there's going to be chemistry just because they're all phenomenal musicians, and the hang is always the most important part.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if
you got to live with these people, So
right, yeah, absolutely. Any bucket list gigs for you? Like if you could just find, say, 3 of your living heroes to sing for Rooftop Screamers, who might those be?
Neil Finn,
Crowded House.
Yeah. Tommy Shaw.
Oh, cool. Nice.
I absolutely love Tommy Shaw. I think he's a phenomenal songwriter. I love his voice. He still sounds exactly like he did in his 20s to this day.
Good one.
And then I would have to say, well, Steven Wilson would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
Then there's Robin Zander's probably my favorite singer of all time, and he's still killing it. He still sounds great.
At the very second you said that, Ashley Dawn Franklin says Robin Zander in the chat. So yes, yeah, she knows you well, doesn't she?
No doubt.
You mentioned Steven Wilson. It was funny at the show. It was just the Steven Wilson show. It wasn't Porcupine Tree, but at the Crystal, Steven came out, and just before the band started, the music is starting to swell up and the lights are coming down, and he says, I would just prefer that you all put your phones away, get off your phone, don't be taking video. And at first I felt like, wow, that was a really condescending message. And I understand, right? If you're on stage, you don't want somebody watching the show like this the whole time.
Right. And then the people behind you looking at your phone. And
right. Yeah. No, it is annoying, but I get it. I totally get it. I thought there may have been a different way to introduce, because he actually had a video before he came on that had some messaging on it. I thought,
yeah,
maybe you throw that on the messaging and then you just come out and do your thing. But
he did went for the Porcupine Tree that we saw in 2022. There was a strict no video photo taken, and he did put that on the big screen behind the band.
Oh, he did. Okay.
And we literally watched ushers going down and wagging their finger at people. And I want to say somebody actually got tossed out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Like our buddy Adrian Ost was tour managing Danzig some years ago.
Oh yeah.
And called me up day of the show and said, "Hey, come down. I'd love to see you. Coming down and see Danzig at the Roseland." I was never a Danzig fan. I'm sorry. If you guys are watching and you're Danzig fans, I'm just going to offend you now. But I went because it was our friend. And the very beginning of the show, Danzig started yelling at this guy up in the balcony at the Roseland. And I'm in the balcony looking over, and I could see that this guy is on his phone, and then he sees that he's being yelled at, and he's like, what? And Danzig's going, off your phone. And he was accusing the guy of videotaping, but this dude was actually on his phone trying to talk to somebody. And so Danzig started pointing his microphone into the monitors to make it feed back so that he could get the attention of the crew. And they kicked the dude out, and the guy made a big deal about it. But I also left because I thought, that's just a silly, waving of a really unnecessary flag. But hopefully,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I understand the idea of wanting somebody to experience the show. You really need to be present in a show, and a lot of that stuff has gone away. And if you're on stage and all you're doing is looking at phones, it's a lot, because we depend on the energy and the vibe from the crowd, right? And if you're only getting that from a lens, and it doesn't work. But
and there's also the situation where they catch you on an off night, and that's out there forever on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like Arnel Pineda is a great example recently with Journey, all the videos out there of him having a rough night or whatever. And yeah.
I never did see the Arnel footage. I saw his response.
I haven't either. I've heard enough, secondhand that I don't have to. I just saw him a few weeks ago. He was great.
Yeah. Well, we both know who the real Journey singer ought to be in that band here. But I mean, seeing Dean sing Steve Perry.
He sang one. I think he sang Lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dean sounds so much like Steve Perry.
It's pretty ridiculous. But Arnel got the gig from YouTube footage of him singing those tunes. So true. Yeah, so it's it's only
again, double-edged sword.
Sure. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. What was the last show that made you cry?
Made me cry?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because I know you're like me. I mean, you get emotional when you see some music that just really moves you.
Yeah.
And as you're thinking,
it's deeply moving. I honestly can't remember. I might have cried at Porcupine Tree.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Because they got some very moody, somber songs that are lyrically pretty intense. I know that I had an amazing time recently at ELO and Def Leppard, and Oh, okay. It was probably Duran last
Okay.
year. Yeah, it was either Save a Prayer or probably Ordinary World.
Oh yeah.
You know, how can you not?
Well, that band is one in particular. I remember seeing them maybe 15 years ago at the waterfront.
Oh yeah,
And
I remember that.
but there was that phase during that time where the band didn't sound that good. And I think those guys, I know you mentioned Def Leppard a minute ago, some other bands like that figured out how to maximize their presence on stage, maybe supplement with a little bit of reinforcement tracks that are not at
Sure.
all, they're just supplemental. They're not like the sort of, the main part and the gist of the
Right.
song.
Right.
But yeah, I heard that Duran right now sounds so good live.
Oh,
And
Simon
so,
Le Bon sounded amazing. I mean,
that's
the whole
cool.
band was phenomenal, but yeah, they were awesome.
Yeah,
And the
man.
production was incredible. And part of it too was when they were doing, it was either Save a Prayer or Ordinary World. You look around, everybody's got their phones, the light
lights.
on. So it was touching.
When I saw you and Ash at a show last was the Cy Curnin show, it was the Fix show at the Aladdin. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember talking to you about this right after the show. And Cy had mentioned it was a real, like, just a real cool emotional part of the show where he said that outside this building right now, there's so much that pulls us apart. But
Oh
we
yeah,
have this collective right here with us today, tonight, right now, at this moment,
yeah.
and it was such a really perfect opportunity at that point. And this is a couple of years ago to look at how music can bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
We're in an election year. We're a month away from an election. And, when you look at stuff happening where people are so divisive and pulling each other apart, um, if we didn't see, because you know what? I think about this a lot. If we were in that room at the Fix show, that room may have been evenly balanced across the board with all sorts of different, interests in partisan politics and religions and all that. But
Sure.
the common thread, right, was that we were all there for the appreciation of the music.
Yeah.
So how do we do
Well,
that?
and Cy is an incredible lyricist. That's one thing has always drawn me to the Fix. He's very political and speaks on a lot of social issues and things like that. And he's
Yeah.
a great front man.
Yeah, he really is.
He's just a great guy too.
Yeah. You have any plans to do any more work with him in the future?
We've talked about it. Yeah, I've thrown out. There's an idea that we floated around about a year ago or so, and let's collaborate, but then schedules and blah blah blah. But yeah, he's definitely still on my radar to want to work together for sure.
Right
And
on.
I got to play on one of his songs on his solo album that came out a few months ago. Yeah, that was a blast.
How did that come about? Did he just reach out and say, "Here"?
Yeah, he just said, I want you to play some drums on a song of mine, and I did some pre-production in the bunker on my V drums, and I said, am I in the ballpark? He's like, oh, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
So then I went and recorded him on my acoustic kit with Kevin Hahn, and he loved it. Yeah, he was really happy with what I did to it.
That's cool. What was that tune
that
called?
Was an honor because even like I said, when I was wearing my studded wristband and my Iron Maiden shirt in high school, I still liked The Cure and Duran and the Fix, and especially like the Fix. I always thought they should have been as big, or if not bigger, than In Excess and U2. Their songs they're great. They're a phenomenal band.
They really are. And still, it's unbelievable to me that 40 years later, that same lineup is still together, right?
Yeah.
You don't see that very often where,
Nope.
a band 40 years later has the same members, right?
Yeah. The bass player briefly was gone, but then he's been back for a long time. So yeah.
Yeah, like 30 years. I mean, long enough that so all right, so we've got Neil Finn, we got Robin Sander, and Tommy Shaw. So all living members, all accessible. I have a feeling that those are going to be able to, they're going to be potential rooftop screamers for you. Have you run across Neil? Have you run into him?
I met him a few years ago when he was down at the Bing Lounge.
Okay, yeah.
And I stood in line to meet him, and my opening line was I literally had just I was working with it was Throwback Suburbia and Lisa Germano, the fabulous violin player from back in the John Cougar and Mellencamp days, right?
Yeah.
She also played with Sheryl Crow and tons of people. I think Bob Dylan and Jewel, but she had worked with Neil Finn a lot on his solo records and his solo shows. And I mentioned that, hey, Lisa Germano just played some strings on a song of mine. And so that was a nice, kind of break the bread moment for us to talk about music and whatnot. Yeah, he was a lovely, lovely guy.
Those are all overlaps. I know like Mark Powers, their mutual buddy, Mark Powers.
Yeah.
He's great friends with the Cheap Trick camp, right? So
that's right.
And so between the Cheap Trick camp getting, word to Robin Zander that he needs to be performing on a Rooftop Screamer song, and Lisa being able to maybe parlay something with Neil Finn, and then we just got to work on Tommy Shaw, who. So with Styx, it's funny that that Gowan, Lawrence Gowan, is now the sort of a primary fixture in Styx.
Oh yeah,
and Zuckerman, and we play with Gowan all the time up in Toronto. So he's a real connection to the Flock of Seagulls thing. So maybe you can get access to Tommy Shaw. But I think between the watchers here and your chat, your fans, let's make this happen, guys. Let's make these are bucket list items for Mike Collins. So let's like by this time next year, let's see if we can't nail one of those at least. What do you say?
Okay.
Yeah?
I believe.
Well, listen, I know that you have some family here, so I want to thank you guys for sure. And Ashley, thank you for supporting our dear friend Mike Collins throughout this part of the journey. And Mira, it's great to see you here again. If you guys came here late, make sure that you go back to check out it. We debuted this amazing video of souvenirs showcasing the commemoration that Mike did to his beautiful posthumous the passing of his grandma Penny. The video is incredible. We'll have a link and embed that in the show notes here. It's also on the link below if you go to youtube.com/@rooftopmike. And Rooftop Screamers, you can check that single out at all the streaming platforms within the next day or two. They'll all be there.
Yep.
So what's your next gig, Mike Collins? I know you just did Beat Division up in Puyallup. What's next?
That was a blast. Probably the worst sound experience we've ever had to deal with, but they finally got to troubleshoot it about 15 minutes in. But anyways, next gig is with Ants in the Kitchen at Billy's Blues at the end of the month.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Ants in the Kitchen. Go see that band. Guys, if you're anywhere outside the Portland area, check out Mike's stuff. He's got an incredible assemblage of songs from singers all over the world. Some of your favorite singers that are out there, and hopefully 3 more singers that are from your favorite band soon. Mike Collins, man, thank you for taking the time to share this video. I think it's your grandma would be real proud, to
thanks,
see what you did. I'm proud of you too.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. It means the world to me, Kevy, that you allowed this to happen today and premiere this video. I can't think of a better way to get it out there. So
thank you very much, man. All right, you guys, if you came here late, I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to ask you, subscribe to this channel. Go to youtube.com/@accesskevin. You subscribe to the channel. If you become a member, you're going to have access to all the stuff we're doing on tour this next month, plus the past episodes that were members only. So go check it out at @accesskevin on YouTube. And again, thanks to 5 Star Guitars. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Pacific, we've got the amazing Mike Stern.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, join us again, buddy, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Everybody here, go out and check out Mike Collins and Rooftop Screamers. The new single, Souvenirs, phenomenal.
Thank you.